Everybody, this is Dave Nasty with NextLevelGuitar.com, and today what we're going to talk about is alternate picking. This is going to be the first of a few here that we're going to do in a series, and I'm going to start off with just a couple alternate picking licks. We'll talk about how to hold the pick, and we'll talk about how to isolate muscle groupings, focusing on each group of strings as we go through this, and we're going to really think about how to focus our attention to just really minimize what we play on the guitar and get as much out of it as possible. All right, so everybody, one thing that I would like to mention, if you would like a free video lesson that is not available on YouTube and a coinciding ebook, please click on the link that you see below. Again, it's a free lesson that you won't find here on YouTube and a coinciding ebook, okay? So just a moment ago in some of these other segments, we talked about all of our scale shapes that were diatonic to the key of G. Everything that we're gonna do as we go through these techniques are going to refer back to all those shapes that we covered. So what we're going to do here to practice this is we're going to actually jump up high up in position here. We're going to be playing out of our D Mixolydian scale shape, okay? That scale shape, again, looked like this, slow. All right, so the hardest part about working on alternate picking is to focus on the upstroke that happens when you change strings. So what we're going to do is take a simple lick. It's kind of a John Mclaughlin type style or a Paul Gilbert type style in effect, and we're going to work this throughout the scale shapes and in different muscle groupings. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up here on our high E on our 12th fret, right? And we're going to start this with an upstroke, okay? So we start with an upstroke, then we're going to go to a downstroke immediately on D. We're going to have an upstroke on C, a downstroke on B, upstroke on C, downstroke on D, and then returning back again to that upstroke on E. So played really simply, this is what you have. So in order to achieve this and to make it comfortable and put it into your everyday practice routine so it's not inundating, is to talk about a couple simple things here. Let's talk about how we're holding the pick, right? When my pick is planing across these strings, it is not flat. I have my pick tilted at an angle. So let's talk about the way to hold the pick, in my opinion, that will make it a little bit easier for you to cross the string. You want to hold your pick at a 45-degree angle, right? So you want to angle this guy a little bit. Now to do that, simply if you're holding your pick like so, you can just bring your first finger in. It enables you to bend your thumb, and then when your pick crosses, you're not only on the very tip portion of the pick, but we've got it angled just enough to where we're not completely flat as we plane across the guitar. We've got it angled, and it gives it a bit of this percussive sound that you'll hear. Almost sounds like when you were a kid and you had something in your bike spokes, right? So what you want to think about is, again, we're going to pull in our index finger. It enables us to bend the thumb a little bit here. And as we pick across and apply this technique, we're always keeping our pick angled so that way it'll flow across your strings a bit more comfortable. So really slowly. All right, so let's expound on this a little bit, right? And talk about how we could practice this technique and move it around a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that you want to think about is how you'll put this with a metronome, right? Now you could play this in straight quarter notes where you're right on every single click of that metronome. You could break it up into eighth notes where you'd be playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or you could break it up into 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, right? So it's important to start at a comfortable tempo where you can apply each of these different measurements or these different ways to apply tempo to the lick with the metronome and just comfortably work it initially, like I said, in this position. So This is focusing on our E and our B strings, right? We're going to use different muscles, as I've said, using these higher strings than we will when we use our center strings here, our D and G, or even our lower strings, our E and A strings. So let's move to a different position within the scale and still apply the same technique, focusing on using that upstroke to start us out. We're going to start off on F sharp in this case, on our third string. And now we're going to travel into the distance of having 2 whole steps on our fourth string. So that's going to give us... Again, real important to make sure and mention here, I have my thumb very stable in the back. It's facing in an upward motion, and I've got my hands arched so I'm not hitting any of these higher strings as I go to these center strings, and I stay very much on the tips of my fingers. You have to remember, when you have so much movement happening in this particular case in a bit of a small space, you want to shoot for the middle of the frets as much as possible. That way you have a little bit of play either way with your hand, and you can move quickly through these motions. So again, we're going to start off with the note on our third string, our F sharp, and we'll apply the same technique. All right, when we mix that in conjunction with what we just did up here on the high string, now you have this. And then we have the notes on our G string and our D string. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we'll start on our A string. This is going to be our G note, and we're going to focus on this larger stretch here that you have within the scale shape, and that's going to be your 2 whole steps here. Really important to focus on how we're angling our pick here on these thicker strings, so that way you can plane across the strings just as comfortably as you can on some of these skinnier strings. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take the simple isolated motion of our B and our E, and our G and our D, and our E and our A, and we're going to connect all the way through the scale shape and maybe stop in each position and work on this particular lick that we just played. So the pattern I'm going to show you now is going to use our Mixolydian scale shape, and we're going to put to use exactly what we just practiced and put it in a form that is usable and really fun to put into your everyday playing. So the lick that we're going to talk about goes like this. We're going to start on our D note, and we have this shape, which is what we just played, right? From there, we're going to ascend 6 notes and finish out our little pattern here, and that's going to give us this. So really easily what you're doing is this. Right? From there, we will start exactly where we finished. And we'll move to another portion of the scale. Then we just finished on our E note here on our 4th string. So we'll start again then with our index finger on our 4th string and apply the same pattern. Starting again on F sharp, we'll do the exact same thing. What's cool about this, and it's slightly tricky at first, is when we're going to our B note here, or our B string, initially we're going to have to hit this note with our middle finger, and I'll show you what I mean. So we start here and we go, grab that B with your middle finger, you descend back down. Now when you ascend in your next 6 notes, you want to shift to your first finger when you hit that B. So it gives you a comfortable position change through that portion of the scale. Again, really slow. All right, continuing on, starting then now on our 2nd string, or on our B note, we'll do the exact same pattern for our last 2 strings. So slowly what you get is this. Middle finger, first finger. All right, a little bit more quickly, you have this. When you play it at the speed, you get this. All right, so you can mix this approach with some of the other practice that we did here, right? We started off initially just doing this motion. If I go up using what we just played, you finish out through the rest of the scale. So you can start very, very slowly. And the way that I recommend to practice this is just being very, very patient. Often, to be honest, what I did when I was younger, when I practiced this, I'd put on my favorite movie, I'd put on my metronome, and I would just sit and I would isolate this technique in each group of strings. Now to move this into your other diatonic scale shapes, stay on those two strings, go up to your natural minor scale. Go up to your low B. You can take these and you can move these all the way up the fretboard, and not only will it increase your dexterity and your overall stamina with the lick, just playing it very comfortably now, not necessarily very fast, but it's going to help you visually see how we can connect things as we did early on here in the key of G. So a practice that you can do then is, say maybe I'll start in my first scale shape. Of course, this is my G major scale shape. Go up to your next scale shape. Very John Mclaughlin in style and technique, right? And really a common thing that you hear in modern style playing, and one of my personal favorite licks. So when you get that going up to speed, it sounds like this. All right, that is one really cool alternate picking lick that you can do, and that you can work on and isolate in all your different 7-scale positions, and take your time and be patient with it, and before you know it, it'll increase your speed and dexterity, and you'll find that these things creep into your everyday playing. All right, everybody, this is Dave Nassi with NextLevelGuitar.com. We've just covered alternate picking. Please stay tuned for some future lessons where we'll talk about hammer-ons and pull-offs, sweep picking, and again, some nice diminished string skipping. Thank you very much for checking it out, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.